to Tim's Thoughts. Today I'd like to share with you a story in Scripture that really I think is an awesome story, and it kind of illustrates to us that even in our struggles, even when we have wounds that we feel like won't heal, even when we have pain, that we can see the face of God. And in those moments, we can really understand who Jesus is. And it's found in Genesis chapter 32, and it goes like this. During the night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the Jabbok River. After taking them to the other side, he sent over all of his possessions. This left Jacob all alone in the camp, and a man came and wrestled with him until the dawn began to break. When the man saw that he would not win the match, he touched Jacob's hip and wrenched it out of socket. And then the man said, "Let me go, for the dawn is breaking." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." "What is your name?" the man asked. And he replied, "Jacob." "Your name will no longer be Jacob," the man told him. "From now on you will be called Israel, because you have fought with God and with men and won." "Please tell me your name," Jacob said. "Why do you want to know my name?" the man replied. And so he blessed Jacob there. Jacob named the place Peniel, which means face of God. And he said, "I have seen God face to face, yet my life has been spared." The sun was rising as Jacob left Peniel, and he was limping because of the injury to his hip. In this story, I want us to see that Jacob wrestles with a couple of things, but because he wrestles with a couple of things, he also receives a couple of things. So what are the 2 things that he wrestles with? Number 1, Jacob wrestled with perseverance. Let's get one thing straight. Jacob did not want to wrestle anyone that night. He wanted to be left alone. It says it right there in verses 22 through 24. He wants to be left alone. Jacob had his uncle Laban behind him, chasing him, trying to kill him. He had his brother Esau waiting in front of him, ahead of him, because Jacob had stolen from Esau, and Esau was trying to get him. And so he was not a good match. He was no match for either one of those 2 guys. He certainly didn't want to add a third opponent to have to contend with. He was alone because he wanted to be alone. But catch this. Jacob thought he needed rest, but he really needed an encounter with God. I love in the movie The Lion King. I love this movie. Towards the end of the movie, the wise old Rafiki shows up and he reminds Simba of who he truly is. He shows up and says, "You've forgotten who you are." He says, You're Mufasa's boy. You're royalty. You're the child of the king." Now, I know that there's a whole nother message there that we could talk about, but do you realize that in your perseverance, and you're trying to make it through, don't forget that you are a child of the king. And so Jacob wrestles with perseverance. But not only that, he also wrestles with this. He wrestles with pain. Jacob is, in his mind, having a really bad day. But he's not the kind of guy who gives up too easy. He's got his uncle behind him. He's got his brother ahead of him. Now he's wrestling with this guy. He's having a really bad day. But he's not the kind of guy who gives up easy. And what happens next, Jacob just kind of quits fighting and just starts grabbing and holding on. Jacob found out that you can't get anywhere with God by struggling and fighting. The only way you get anywhere with God is by yielding and holding on. So those are the things that Jacob wrestled with. He wrestled with perseverance and pain. What did he receive? Well, number 1, Jacob received a new identity. Jacob received a new name that day. Remember, the man said, "What's your name?" And Jacob said, "Well, my name's Jacob." And then the man said, "From now on, your name is Israel." Please don't miss this. Please don't miss this. Jacob said, "My name is Jacob." He admitted who he was. You have to admit who you are before God can change who you are. Let me say that again. You have to admit who you are before God can change who you are. Jacob received a new identity, but he also received a new walk. Jacob limped away from that encounter with God. His walk changed forever. We are no different than Jacob. Most, if not all of us, are in some way fighting or struggling or wrestling with God. We have pain. We have a struggle we struggle to keep going sometimes. It would be better for us to stop fighting, hang on for dear life, and allow God to give us a new identity and a new walk. Have a great week. I'll see you next time.